What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Jabcast. I am Ben, joined once more, as always, by my two lovely co-hosts, Jared and Alec. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Alec, anything to say?
Great. I'm great. I'm
Great.
happy. I'm lovely.
How are you, Ben?
I'm
Yeah,
doing-
No one ever asked Ben how he's feeling.
because no
true.
one cares.
Oh,
Oh,
no, I was really sick last week, but I recovered pretty quickly, so I'm
that's
doing all
good.
right.
Or it's
You
so
don't have
well.
the suds anymore.
No, so as there, the doctor wiped the toilet bowl with me, so yeah, doing all right. But we
Very
got
nice.
we got a lot to talk about today. A lot of stuff I'm
Yeah.
really talking about.
Shall we just jump right in?
Yeah, I believe we should.
As we always do, as we segue from intros into movie of the week. As we discussed last week, we were going to talk about The Harder They Fall. This is Netflix's new Western. It's a black cast, black produced, with a really great soundtrack as well, with a lot of African-American artists. Sorry, as my cat just walks under my computer and almost rips something out with his tail. Yeah, so huge cast. Alec, you said you have the cast right in front of you, or do you have the characters?
Both.
Okay. Can you tell us some of the actors that are in this? We talked
Yeah.
about it last week, but we can run through it again. Like the big ones.
Yeah, so we have this has Nat Love, who is our main character. That is Jonathan Majors. I haven't really seen a lot of things that he is in. He is known for Lovecraft Country, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, White Boy Rick, and When We Rise. Those are the four on IMDb that he's known for. But he played Nat Love in this. This Netflix produced this, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this is a Netflix film. And then we have I'm gonna butcher this dude's name. Eddie Gathaji. I can't say it. He's from Kenya. He played Bill Pickett, who ran with Nat Love and was in the Nat Love gang, I guess you could call them. Let's see, other big ones. RJ Seiler. Gosh, I cannot talk today, but he played Jim Beckworth. He was essentially a quick draw in the Nat Love gang as well. And then rounding out the Nat Love gang was Zazie Beats.
Mhm.
Right? Isn't that how you say her name?
Zazie. Yep.
Zazie Beats.
Zazie. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in Atlanta, Deadpool 2, 9 Days, and she was also in Ben Wayman documentary.
Yep.
Which many people know as the Joker. But yeah,
Oh,
it's
shit.
about
Are we really calling that Ben Wayman documentary now?
And then also in rounding out the gang was a character named Cuffy, who was played by Danielle Deadweiler. That's half of the main characters pretty much in this movie. And then you also had a rival gang called the Rufus Buck gang, and Rufus Buck was played by Idris Elba, who friend of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all love him. He's a great guy.
You got Regina King as well, right?
Yeah, Regina King plays
Trudy
Smith.
Smith.
Yeah, Trudy Smith, who is like his right hand.
Yeah.
Which is that's pretty good. And then you also have oh my gosh, where is he? There he is.
Lakeith Stanfield, right?
Stanfield.
Cherokee Bill.
Yep, Cherokee Bill. He's Rufus Buck gang's quick draw. Pretty good. Great. That was a great character. I thought that was really good, really well played. And then kind of in the middle of everything was Delroy Lindo, who played Bass Reeves. He was the U.S. Marshal trying to bring down Rufus Buck, kind of teamed up with the Nat Love gang throughout the whole thing. And I think that's the majority of the really notable characters.
Yeah.
Um, Spoilers from here to the end of our conversation. So check the description to see when we stop talking about The Harder They Fall if you haven't seen it yet. Hopefully you listened to the last show and you're watching all this stuff with us so you can kind of be a part of the discussion with us. But we are heading in to talk about The Harder They Fall, which released on Netflix on November 3rd. So we again, check the description. I'll have when we stop talking about it if you want to continue with the show from there. So, Jared, take it away.
Yeah, so the movie opens with I guess a flashback of Nat Love as a child. And Idris Elba's character, Rufus, comes in and attacks his family in his home, kills both of his parents, and carves a cross into Nat Love's forehead. Then there's a big title sequence. Then they flash forward, and he's now an adult, and he's been played by Jonathan Majors, and he's taking out the last guy from Rufus Buck's gang. And he thinks he's done. Rufus Buck is still alive, but he's in jail, and he's going somewhere far away. So he says he's as good as dead anyway. And they find out later in the movie that he was broken out by his two compatriots, Regina King and Lakeith Stanfield. So now he's got one last person to take out before he can, rest easy and get the revenge on his family that he deserves. So he gathers up the rest of his gang, like we said, Bill Pickett, Jim Beckworth, who else we got? Cuffy, and
Mary Fields.
Mary Fields, yeah. And they get together. Oh, and they the U.S. Marshal. So yeah, they get together and then they hunt them down. As far as it goes, it's a pretty standard Western, but it is really fun. There's a lot of cool gunplay. You got your standoffs. It's a lot of fun. The music's great. This is something my dad personally hates, is when they use music from today or new music in general in like period pieces. But I think that's just a method of storytelling now. We use our own language to tell stories from hundreds of years ago today. So I don't see why we can't use music using that same language as well. So I think that worked well too. I think the movie just overall really felt a lot like a Quentin Tarantino movie in terms of violence, using that music in a lot of its scenes, the style. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I think it's one of my favorites from the year. I'm gonna throw this over to Ben. He hasn't done a lot of talking yet. Ben, what did you think?
Yeah, I like this movie. I want to talk first about the cast because I love like everyone in this. I really like Ozzy Beats. I think she's great. Jonathan Majors is one of my favorite actors. He's kind of like a jack of all trades. He can kind of do everything. The first time I ever saw him was in Last Black Man in San Francisco, and that was probably one of the best. Still is probably one of the best acting performances I've ever seen. And he was really good in this as well. Lakeith Stanfield was always really good. Mustafa Shakir was really good. He was more of a minor character. He's going to be Jet in the upcoming Cowboy Bebop adaptation. So I recognized him from somewhere. He was really good.
Wait, whoa. Who was he in the movie? I knew he was supposed to be in it, but I didn't see him. Did I forget? What?
I can't remember his name. He was like not really in it, which is kind of disappointing.
Okay. Yeah, I was, because I remember seeing him on the cast list, but I don't. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, but they had really good chemistry together, which I think is really important in a movie. Jared and I will talk about Eternals and cast chemistry later. But if you have a great cast, but they can't like communicate together, which you like wouldn't expect because they're all actors. So like they should act like they at least like get together. But like the chemistry was obviously there. Like they obviously had a lot of fun filming this. But yeah, as for the plot, it was kind of bare bones for a Western. Jared described it really well. It was just kind of like a normal Western movie. It did feel very much like a Tarantino movie. I'm really glad that Jared brought that up because I was going to say that. Both visually and in terms of like how the story was told, and like jumped around and stuff like that. I really liked the visuals though. My friend, I watched it with my friend, and he pointed out that every time they were in a white town, like the scenery was white.
Yep.
Like I probably should have noticed that myself, but um the visuals were cool. I think at times it got caught up in its own like indulgences, I guess. Like it like was trying to point out its art and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean I think the ending was very satisfying as well. Um yeah, just a good movie. I don't think it like wowed me. I don't think it was like spectacular, but I think for like a Netflix release, I think it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Alex, you want to give your final thoughts? Yeah.
yeah, I love this movie. I think it was really really good. I loved uh Jim Beckworth. He was probably my favorite character. I love that they used more modern slang. The way they talked to each other, the way they interacted with each other seemed a lot more modern than what they would have done around this time, which I'm assuming takes place either right before, a little bit during, or like right after the Civil War era. I'm assuming it's that time period, just based off of like the time periods of all the real people's Wikipedia's birth and death date, stuff like that, and then also the military men when they were breaking Rufus Buck out and getting him off of the train. They all looked like they were Union soldier outfits type
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, yeah, Ben, I'm kind of surprised on how you missed the white town stuff, because when the big thing came on the screen that said Mayfield, underneath it said it's a white town.
Yeah, I know. I was like shocked. I'm usually like very attentive during movies, but I don't know how I missed it.
Yeah, I don't know either. It was that was it was literally right on the screen. Yeah, but this was, I think it was an awesome movie. Although I'm really upset at the way Jim Beckworth died in the movie.
Yeah.
That was so anticlimactic. I was expecting some real big like shootout standoff for those two. That was just kind of boring. I mean, I get it. I get it. They were kind of like, yeah, he's running his mouth. He's a little too cocky, and Cherokee Bill just put him in his place.
Yeah.
But it was, I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of boring.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead. You go.
I will go ahead.
Yeah.
My biggest gripe with the story, obviously I didn't like how Beckworth died. He wasn't my favorite character, though, so I don't feel as upset as Alec. But a lot of movies now feel the need to like explain why the villain is evil. Like near the end, Buck had like this really long like story about like why he's evil, like regarding his like family and stuff like that. And I think the way they like drew it back to like the current, like how he scarred Jonathan Majors' character, so he would like recognize him later, was pretty cool. But at the same time, like it's the Wild West. Like people are just allowed to like be greedy and like be evil. Like they felt like take a decent chunk of time out of the movie and explain why. Like you could also argue that like Nat Love and his gang are like evil because like the way that they do things. So like you don't need to. It's like trying to prove that like, oh, maybe the guy we thought was bad all along actually had a reason to be bad. Like everyone was bad in the Wild West.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I was going to bring up how what we were just talking about with Alex Guy. I knew that he was dying as soon as the marshal was like, "Hey, all that flashy stuff will get you killed" or whatever. It just felt like he was talking right to the audience. He's like, "This guy is going to die soon."
Yeah. But I kind of think all that the stories that they had were kind of necessary, Ben, because like thinking about it and watching it, hearing how Rufus Black's dad acted, the things he did, and how he treated Rufus Black. Then Rufus goes and kills him, and now it kind of seems like Nat Love is following the same pattern as Rufus Buck's dad. I just realized I was calling him Rufus Black. Rufus Buck's dad, Rufus Buck, and now Nat Love, because they're all blood you know. So I feel like it kind of was a little bit necessary to tell that story, and it kind of, not that it was hidden or it was a surprise, because I think that whole thing kind of seemed pretty obvious to me, but it made it more clear, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I get it.
You know
It's
what
just,
I mean?
I get that it was like necessary, but I just like, I'm kind of tired of writers like backing themselves into these holes where they have to like try to make us feel for the villain. Um, but I understand like why it was necessary for like the greater plot.
Yeah. And that's kind of just what that's kind of just what I was thinking. But and at the end, it really seemed to me like they're gonna push for a second one. I don't know if they are going
Oh
to do
yeah.
one,
Yeah,
but
I could see that happening.
I don't see how it's possible. Everyone's dead except Trudy.
Yeah, but she could put together her own gang. You don't know. We don't really know much about her past.
Yeah, and even in real life, if you want to go into their real people, because all of the characters are real, the storyline of this movie, I don't believe is, but all the people
Yeah,
are real characters.
I don't think most of them ever met, but they were like all these prominent figures in the American frontier era. So they
Yeah,
collected them together for a cool movie.
yeah. Well, Trudy Smith was in real life known as just like a pickpocketer, which kind of explains how fast she is in all those little scenes where she's taking something or handing things to people in the middle of a fight.
Right. Yeah.
She's so fast, but that's all they know about her, is that she was a pickpocketer.
Yeah.
From what I can gather on the interwebs.
Right.
But everybody else seemed to be like pretty much a badass.
Yeah.
So like that kind of seems pretty cool though. They got all these epic people tied into this one big thing. However, Nat Love and Cherokee Bill and Rufus Buck seem to be the only ones who were like legit gangsters or Wild West cowboys throughout real life. Mary Fields is known as a post office department manager, and she's like the first African American female star route mail carrier in the United States. So she would just run mail across the country and kill a lot of people, because at the time this was an extremely dangerous job to do.
Right.
This was one of the hardest and worst jobs that you could possibly do. And James Beckworth also, they're not entirely sure when he was born or when he died. They know he was in his 60s when he died, and they also don't know how his name was actually spelled. Because if you look in the cast list, it's spelled Beckworth, his last name. But when I'm pretty sure at the end, when they bury him, they spell it Beckwourth. So no one really knows how his name was actually, what his name actually is. And I think that, and it also could be, according to Wikipedia, Beckwith, Beckwith. So there's so many different things. And I think that's kind of why they don't know when he was born and when he died, but they know he was basically a military man his whole life.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, again, kind of a badass guy.
Yeah.
But like all of them seem to have incredible pasts in real life, and they were all of some kind of African American or slave descent, which I think is awesome. And I think they probably could have tried to touch on that a little bit more. Because I feel like when Nat Love was 10 years old, because I'm pretty sure he was born from a slave owner and a slave, I believe. And then his dad, who was the slave owner, let him go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true. according to Wikipedia. But, we can't always trust Wikipedia.
Right.
But that is my main source of information. But yeah, Nat Love being from slave descent and being born into slavery, I think they could have touched on some of that stuff a little bit. But I also don't think that really would have made for the good story that they have.
Right.
I feel like they either had to pluck these people out of their whole backgrounds, use a little bit of it, and then put it into the new story, and then kind of cherry pick what they're pulling out of their pasts to make their character. But I feel like being born into slavery really would have shaped some of these characters into how they are as adults.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I kind of think that background for some of these guys would have been beneficial, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Ben, you got excited when we brought up Westerns in general last show. So I feel like I'm gonna give this to you. You want to talk about some of your favorite Westerns, what you like about them so much?
Sure. So I really like Western movies, obviously, as Jared just pointed out. Don't know why I felt the need to repeat that, but
Ben,
what's going on, man?
do you like Westerns?
I do actually. I don't know if you guys
Huh.
but I like Westerns because of like obviously I like gunslingers, like cowboys, stuff like that. But I also like what you can do with them and like what can be like considered a Western. Obviously, like
Yeah.
Western people think of like spaghetti Westerns from like the 50s and 60s, which I think have their own charm. Those are not necessarily my favorites, but if you think of like current day Westerns, stuff like Bone Tomahawk, which is like one of my favorite movies ever. That is technically a Western. People can make a case for what's Tarantino's latest movie called? I can't remember.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That could be like considered a Western. Probably
Hateful Eight also could too.
Yeah, I mean, two of my favorite movies ever are the aforementioned Blood Tomahawk and Hateful Eight. Just because of the setting, I like the open spaces usually that they occupy. And obviously they're always set in like the Western United States, why they're called Westerns, but that's like a lot of land. So that's like Texas. It's like New Mexico, but also like the Rockies, which is where Hateful Eight takes place, which is a really cool setting. Also like how they all Westerns have like a sense of like justice. Each one seems to have like two sides of the same coin. They have a character that like represents like justice and like order, and then another one that's just like the complete opposite. They're even like a visual cue, like the good guy will wear like a white hat and the bad guy will wear like a black hat.
Yeah.
If you've seen Westworld, they point that out a lot. Which is also another good Western, even though it's not a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, just something about like gunslingers. I'm always drawn to like a gunslinging cowboy character. That's really the draw for me. Even the old ones, my grandfather is really into Westerns, so sometimes when I visit, he'll just like throw one on the TV, and they're so stupid, but they're also like really good, and they're also like a little racist. But hopefully,
yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about Westerns?
Yeah, I've been getting into them more recently, and I like them. I haven't seen a lot of the older ones, like Clint Eastwood stuff, John Wayne. But I'm really into specifically. You said how you can do a lot with Westerns. I really like the modern ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're still in the West, but like Hell or High Water. I'm looking at some right now. Not True Grit. Oh, even Sicario can really be considered a Western. Logan, that's a superhero movie, but that's very much a Western. Things like that. I really, really like those. Just the seeing the outlaw in the 21st century, what that means now versus when they were in their prime, I guess. I really like seeing that comparison. But then there's still the classics. I think my favorite Western of all time is True Grit, the Coen brothers one with Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and Josh Brolin. That one's fantastic. Ben, you put me on Bone Tomahawk. I really like that one as well. And then obviously we've got Django Unchained, The Revenant. Yeah, they're really fun. It's something I still haven't seen too many of, and I think I'd also like to go back and watch some Clint Eastwoods to see like the foundational classics. But Oh, do you guys consider Rango a Western?
Yeah, for what it's worth.
Yeah. Honestly, it's one of my favorite Westerns because it's the classic new guy in town.
Right.
He's from a far off land, and it's this little tiny town or whatever, and now he's got to help him out. So yeah, like at its roots, it's very much Western. Obviously, it's it's a little simplified for kids and whatnot, but yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Getting into them more. Need some recommendations. But Alec, what about you?
I would say two of my favorite westerns would be The Ridiculous Six and Blazing Saddles.
Right, you're a comedy guy.
Yeah, I am a big comedy guy, but no, outside, I honestly don't. I haven't seen either of those two in a very long time. So I would say my Western experience really isn't all that high. I feel like I could. I feel like I would definitely like to get into Westerns more, but it's just I never really was a big movie goer kind of guy. Um,
Mhm.
playing Red Dead and watching this movie really is starting to get me like sucked into that like cowboy background type of deal.
Yeah, man, it's cool.
It is, and that's kind of and I also think like for me especially like even though they are spoofs, the Blazing Saddles and the Ridiculous Six are easy transitions to like go into real Western movies. Like they're funny and they're spoofy, but they can if you've never seen a Western and you like comedy movies and you've seen them, I feel like it's a good transition to be like, let's see what this is making fun of. And then it might even make Blazing Saddles even funnier.
Right. Yeah.
But I think I definitely think that if The Harder They Fall would have came out in theaters, I would have went to see it.
That actually did.
It did.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Had
just
like well, it wasn't like an international release. It's like it's not playing anywhere near us
so
that I know of.
it's in theaters like in big cities, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like indie theaters, but we have neither of that.
Yeah, I just knew it came out on Netflix, which is why I watched it there.
Yeah.
But what else came out in theaters that you went to see?
Yeah. So our ticket or miss it for the week. Ben actually joined me for this, so he's gonna chime in as well. We went and saw Marvel Studios' next chapter in the MCU, which is Eternals. Um, as I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard in the last 2 weeks, the Rotten Tomatoes score, which you can have your opinions about Rotten Tomatoes. Some people think it's scripture, some people don't think it matters at all. Some people think it's a single entity that gives out their review and everyone takes it as scripture, but it's a conglomerate of like 100, 200 reviews, and that's how they get an average. Most people don't understand that, but whatever. That's another soapbox day. It's the worst rated Marvel movie ever, and it's not really close. So you can take that as you will. That's by no means that's not gonna dictate if you like it or not. That's really what I'm getting at. But with all that being said, I do think this is the worst Marvel movie I've seen out of the MCU. And that's not to say it's bad. I will say, as soon as the movie ended, and I think I looked right at Ben when I said this, is I thought I didn't like it. I said that was a bad movie, and I wasn't sure I liked it. We saw that Thursday night. We're recording this on Sunday. So I've had a couple days to think about it, let it marinate. And I appreciate it a lot more. I do think it is still fundamentally the most flawed of the MCU movies, just from like a pacing standpoint, some writing issues, some inconsistencies with in the world itself that in how it corresponds with other movies and everything. But it's fun. It has good moments. The biggest problem for me for a while, the first hour, they are getting together all of the Eternals, and there's 10 of them, and they spend so long doing it, and then they each get their own little backstory and character building moment, and it just takes so long to really get going. Once it gets going, it's a lot better, but almost the first half is just like a snooze. And it's kind of to be expected. It's 10 new characters at least. There's a couple other supporting characters outside of the Eternals. But it's got a big cast. Angelina Jolie, Barry Cohen, Brian Tyree Henry, Kate Harrington is in it. I just call him Kate. Kit Harrington is in it for like barely anything. Richard Madden, Gemma Chan, Salma Hayek, Kumail Nanjiani, Lauren Ridloff. I don't know if I said Don Lee yet. Bill Skarsgård voices a villain that's almost not even in it at all. But yeah, I don't know. The characters are interesting. The Eternals as a concept are interesting. It sets up a lot of cool things for the future. But I just think there's it was just messy. Not as well put together as it should have been, considering Chloe Zhao was on the script and behind the camera as the director. But Ben, what did you think? I might think of some other stuff while you're talking, but I've talked enough for now. Go ahead.
First of all, Alec, are you planning on seeing this?
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Alright.
But I have a quick question. So
Yeah.
like it kind of like looking at the like reading the synopsis and looking around on IMDb and everything, it really kind of seems like it's like a whole new chapter of Marvel universe, correct? Is that what it be?
Kinda.
Kinda. It
I
kind of
mean, I think
it-
every new movie is a new chapter.
yeah. Well,
Like,
I meant
what are you getting at by that?
so
Yeah.
like
I think he
Iron Man 1 up until this point is like an era.
Yeah.
I guess era
Yeah,
is a better word.
they call it the Infinity Saga.
Yeah, so this is like
Yeah.
a different part. I feel like
Yeah.
this movie is basically if we would take that the Infinity Saga and just started with the Avengers. The first movie that came out was the Avengers. I feel like this is starting with that. You know what I mean?
Kinda. This it's not starting from scratch. There are some very foundational things that have already been established. It more so, instead of creating a new chapter, it rewrites some things, clarifies on some context that will be important moving forward. But you can't just watch this as like a new thing. There are a lot of essential movies you had to have watched before you can see this. But
Yeah.
Ben, what were you gonna say?
should I just get into my, you kind of like said what I was going to say. Should I just get into my analysis?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, because Alec is going to see this, I'm not going to like spoil it.
Yeah.
A lot of my gripes come from the plot. I think, well, talking about the critics first, the critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are at 47%, but the audience score is at 81, which I thought was telling. The critic reviews, from what I read, were saying like, oh, I like this movie, but I don't think the general Marvel or audience will like it, which is kind of like bringing down their score somehow, which is not how you should critique a film based on like other people will think. But a little bit ago, I mentioned cast chemistry. And I think this movie is the best and worst of that.
Yeah.
Some of the individual characters are insultingly stupid. Sprite especially was probably my least favorite character in any Marvel movie ever.
Yep.
She was kind of used as like both a way to over explain things and kind of like drag along a couple of the other characters that didn't need to be dragged along. And if you've seen it, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. The other cast members were great. I really loved Richard Madden. I thought he played a really convincing Icarus. Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie were made out to be like two really important characters, but in the grand scheme of the movie, they really didn't do much of anything. I really liked Barry Cohen and Kumail Nanjiani as Druig and Kingo, respectively. I think those are probably my two favorite characters. Brian Tyree Henry as Festos was good as well. That was really about it in terms of cast. Jared talked about Bill Skarsgård as the villain that was like not even in the movie.
Yeah.
As for the film itself, I think it took a lot of risks, but they didn't all pay off. It obviously tried to tell more of a story than other Marvel movies have, which I said to Colin after the movie, our other friend, that seems to be the direction Marvel is headed in. They want to tell more of a story rather than just have like a fight for 2 hours or whatever. Shang-Chi told a story, and gave like much more depth to characters, and this movie seemed to try to do the same thing. Um, I agree with Jared. I think the first half was a bit of a crawl. But with the way the movie panned out at the end, I don't really know like what you would cut. You could have made stuff
Yeah.
short. I'm not sure like what you really could have taken out, because then you would have like struggled just to connect to any character at all without any
Yeah.
kind of backstory.
Yeah.
They wrote my favorite character out of the movie. That's all I'm gonna say. I was really, really upset about that. And
Oh,
then yeah,
I'll have
you
to ask you. I don't know.
yeah. But I'm not gonna spoil it, but the post credit scenes were really cool. There was some really cool reveals. Really cool setup to the next movies. But getting back to like the self-contained story in Eternals, it just didn't feel like there was any like consequence to anything. There was a pretty big twist, probably a little over. No, it's probably like 3/4 of the way through the movie that didn't really like feel like it had any like consequence. Um, there were like four villains, like three, I guess like three villains, and two of them didn't even matter like at all. And one of the quote unquote main villain was kind of just used as a way to like make one of the main characters more powerful, really. But I think the way it established the Celestials and Arishem and some of the other characters that we're going to be seeing was really interesting. I think as a stepping stone movie, this was a good movie, but I think as a greater Marvel movie, it kind of fell flat a little bit. But I did enjoy it. I think I would see it again. Not like I missed anything, but just to really like, I don't know, just to see it again. I thought it was fun. I thought
Yeah.
the characters were fun. Oh, and my point about the characters, some of them were really bad on their own, but I think together they had some really funny moments. There is some downtime where the whole team like interacts, and it's actually kind of funny. They have some charm, but I think otherwise they're pretty annoying.
Yeah, and I'll also say that I think this is a movie that, because just in the last 2 days of me thinking about it, 2-3 days, I've grown to appreciate some more things that I had problems with just because I thought about it more. I think up front some things are weird and jarring, but when you think about it more, it does make sense. And I think also in terms of the MCU moving forward, the longer this sticks around, I think the more I'll learn to appreciate it when I see the stepping stones that it builds to or builds from. That happened with Age of Ultron. That was kind of a mess when it first came out, because it was just setting up so much stuff. And there is there's a fair criticism to making a movie just to set up 3-4 more movies. But when you think of it I don't think about the MCU as a bunch of movies anymore, which they are, but I always look at it in the context of a TV show, and each movie is an episode.
Right.
And you're going to the end of something, because that's really what they're trying to do here. So I see this as an episode that's going to have later payoff, and it might be years from now, but I think it'll happen eventually. It's every movie has its piece in the MCU puzzle. So I'm still gonna watch it. I liked it. I don't want anyone to think that I didn't. I was very close to not liking it, and like I said, I still think it's probably the worst. But yeah, I think it'll grow on me more over time too. But now, in terms of ticket or miss it, this will largely depend on whether or not you are a Marvel fan and need to see it. If you're a fan of the MCU, every project is essential viewing. I know a lot of people think you can skip some things, but you really can't. My buddy, who always he says he's seen every Marvel movie, and then he goes, well, except all the Thors, all the Iron Mans, and all the Captain Americas. Those are like they're called the big three. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're like keystones.
Yeah, they're keystones in the franchise, and they're very important for everything. So he's constantly asking me questions. He's like, well, why didn't they talk about that? I'm like, they did. It's in another movie that you said you saw, but then didn't. So you need to see it if you want to understand things. It'll be on Disney Plus eventually, as they all are. I think it's fun. We saw it in IMAX, and we didn't really talk much about the visuals, but visually it was stunning. Lots of very cool shots and everything. Although I will say, if you see it in IMAX, it will bounce between full screen and IMAX. Like it'll flip flop, so you'll see the black bars popping in and out a lot, and that can be jarring. The opening sequence especially was like really weird, and I was worried the whole movie was going to be like that. And it wasn't as bad as the opening sequence, but yeah, just look out for that. But yeah, this will largely just depend on if you're a hardcore Marvel fan or not. I don't see any of the projects coming out in the next year really having that much to do with this movie, so you might be able to get away with waiting for Disney Plus. But if you like the movie experience, this is a movie made for the theater. And if you're a big Marvel fan and you just need to see it, then yeah, I'd say ticket. But if not, then you could probably wait.
I'll also say, Jared, some of the like CGI and editing at some points was really trying to think there was one moment that was like exceptionally poor, but yeah, just not to waste time. I mean, I think you'll see it when you see the movie. It's really hard to sit here and explain it to you, but
it does have 2 great credit scenes that do set up things pretty far in the future, some with things that have to do with this movie and some that kind of have to do with others. You'll know what that post-credit scenes, that's basically the definition of them. Sometimes they affect that movie and sometimes it's others, but definitely stick around. There's 2 mid-credits and a post-credits if you're going to see it,
and both are really cool and really important. So
yeah.
And I know you were talking earlier about Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't know. I am positive that this holds less weight than Rotten Tomatoes, but Eternals is number 3 on the IMDb charts in most popular movies.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that holds even less weight.
Yeah,
huge caveat, because like what movies are on theaters right now?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter about theaters because like Hocus Pocus is on this list.
Well, that is the greatest movie of all time.
Oh my gosh.
No,
it's not. Midsummer is on this list.
Oh,
have you guys seen that?
yes.
Yeah.
Wild. Venom is on here. 2018 Venom is on here. So like it's obviously just like most popular movies determined by IMDb users, which is obviously not a lot. Not every moviegoer is on here rating movies. But what movie is going to be talked about next week for us to spoil for everybody?
So we're going to check out Apple TV Plus's new movie called Finch, starring Tom Hanks and Caleb Landry Jones. It's about a scientist or roboticist that has survived a solar flare. He's living by himself and his dog, and he is dying from radiation poisoning. So he's trying to design, build, and teach a robot to take care of his dog after he succumbs to his illness. So that'll be very sad. Lots of tears next week.
Yeah, a lot of who doesn't. It's a dog. Like you gotta protect the dog.
It's also Tom Hanks.
Also Tom Hanks. Yeah,
he's an emotional guy.
Yeah.
Also, friend of the show.
Yes.
He's actually in the call right now.
Yeah.
Tom,
shy. Say hi.
There's a snake in my boot.
You hear him? Holy. Tom, what did we say about the Toy Story quotes?
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of Toy Story, something I wish had a TV show about, but there isn't. So what's going on in TV, Jared?
Well, we are going to be discussing Ted Lasso season 2 today. Alec and I watched this as it released. It came out this year. And I assume Ben binged it in one day.
Probably.
Did you actually?
No, I watched it over the span of I think it was over the span of the last week. It took me like 4 days, I think.
Nice. There you go. Well, I'll let you lead this off since this is fresher in your mind.
Yes. I I spoke pretty positively of the first season, and I think this was even better yet. Um, it had a lot more emotional peaks and valleys, I will say. I'll talk about a few of those, but it was also a little longer. I think the first season was it 10 episodes?
Yeah.
This was 12, which I think is 12 for me is like the perfect amount for like a TV season. Something like jarring about the number 10 in terms of episodes, but I was telling the guys before the show that there was one moment that I don't think was supposed to be funny that I was dying at for like half an hour. It's in the first episode, and it's when it's when Danny kills the dog.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, I think that was supposed to be funny.
Um,
The dog that's the mascot for
Yeah.
the team, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a greyhound. It's a greyhound. Yeah.
but yeah, I think the story is generally more of the same. They're kind of obviously trying to. I think they're trying to stay up because they're now in the Premier League.
No, I think this is.
Oh, they were
they're trying to get
relegated. Yeah, yeah.
promoted.
So they're trying to get promoted. So they're not playing like the same teams that they were. I don't think that they used many like actual names. Couldn't
I
get
think
the
they use. I think they use Tottenham.
Yeah, they used West Ham as well. They talked about West Ham. But yeah, kind of like middle of the season, they go on like a streak, which is cool to see after so much like up and down. Um Also the scene the scene where Sharon gets hit by the car. Pretty funny. Just like any physical like impact is really funny to me.
Yeah.
You're a big like Chris Farley fan then.
Sure. I also learned that this is not with like the story, but they used Crystal Palace's stadium as like their home ground. As Richmond's home ground. Crystal Palace being a team in the top flight of English football, which is really cool. Selhurst Park is really old as well. Yeah, I think the scene that I actually saw before I saw the show was Ted's panic attack, which I think is interesting. There's not a lot of like representation of like mental health issues in TV shows. Well, it's like growing, but that's like something that like a lot of people are like afflicted with, like anxiety and stuff. And I think to have that shown in a TV show was pretty cool. It wasn't cool, but you know what I mean.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Nice to see.
It was a good thing.
I think the actual like sports sequences were better. I think that they didn't look at. I mean, I said last time these people aren't professional athletes; they're actors. But I think that they did.
You know, Ben, you say that, but the guy that played Jamie Tart, that like crazy kick he had at the end of the season, he actually did that.
Did he actually?
Yeah. I don't know if because like they're growing up in that culture, so I'm sure they're like amateurs, but like they've played the sport, some of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep going.
But yeah, so essentially it's another like up and down season for Richmond, but they do eventually get promoted. So I guess next season they'll be back in the Premier League. But I think this season was funnier. I think it had a lot more funny moments. It also had a lot of sad moments. The part at the end with Nate talking to Ted about like being neglected was pretty sad. One thing I really like about the show is how easy it is to connect with the characters. I mean, obviously, Ted himself is kind of a parody of Americans in soccer and stuff like that. But I think he's really easy to connect with. He's very human, and a lot of the other characters are as well. But yeah, I did like it more than the first season. I think it was good. I am very excited for a third season. It's announced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be the last also.
Yeah, they only are doing 3 seasons.
I really like when TV shows do that when they like know when to stop. But
Yeah, when did we talk about that last? Wasn't it like when we were talking about debating Ozark and Breaking Bad?
yeah, 'cause
Probably.
Ozark's upcoming season is the last.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that it's not dragging it out.
Yeah. That was way back on the radio days. I think before COVID, we had that conversation. Yeah.
It comes up every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything Ben has said so far. I don't know if he has anything else.
Not particularly. It was nice to see Spurs win, even in a fake game. Don't do that anymore these days.
Didn't they like destroy Richmond?
I think it was an FA Cup tie, and Jamie scored, and then Ted had a panic attack, and then Tottenham, I think, just ran from there.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, there was also a Christmas episode, and usually shows kind of use Christmas episodes as like a crutch to
Pump an extra episode, I guess.
have some downtime, I think. But I think that this one was actually really well done. So,
It goes right along with like the themes of the show.
right. It focused a lot on Ted and
Spirit
his,
of
like,
Christmas.
his like post divorce, like Christmas and what he'll be doing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
Jason Sudeikis is so funny, and he's a really convincing idiot. So
Yeah.
I think Jason Sudeikis and Brett Goldstein really wrote an amazing second season to this show, and I think it advances every character's story perfectly. And I can't talk about Ted Lasso season 2 without saying how much I hate Nate right now. I cannot stand Nate. I hate him, and I want to punch him in the face.
He's going to the dark side.
Yeah, he is. And also, hopefully his hair looks better in season 3, because at that end season,
Oh yeah.
end scene, his hair was bad.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the Coach Beard episode?
I loved it.
yeah,
It was very different.
Incredible.
Yeah. Because I noticed it was the what was it called? Like Coach Beard Overnight or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I saw that. I was like, oh, are we getting a Coach Beard episode? Because he kind of just sits in the back, you know. He pipes up when he needs to, but he's barely had any you never really explore his character. You like hear what's going on in his life through like offhand stuff that he talks about, and like he's texting sometimes this season, and then it was just a full Coach Beard episode. So yeah, that was cool. He's one of the creators of the show too, actually.
Yeah.
I forget his name. But,
I don't know. I'm not sure if he's a writer or if he is just part of like the creation and direct team. You know what I mean?
Brendan Hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if he's a writer or not.
Yeah, I agree too. I really like this season. I don't know. Ted Lasso season 1 was like lightning in a bottle for me, just in terms of like when I watched it. So it was just like a weird time in Corona, in lockdown, when like everything was just depressing, and that was like it was like the light, like the only light in my life for like 3 days was Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So it's like a biased view of it. So I don't know if I can ever shake that. So I think I still like season 1 better, but I get that it was just like a weird situation, and that's why I like it so much, probably so much more than I should. But like from an objective standpoint, I think they're at least just as good.
Jared, that brings up a really interesting like point that it's a phenomenon that I often experience, but I don't think I've ever discussed, is when you watch like a season of a show and you love it, and then you like keep going and you start to like dislike it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel that way with like every show I've ever watched. I felt that way about Ozark. Season 3, I like loathed it for the first few episodes. Like something felt different, but like I'm not sure what it was. And I was like, man, I just wish I could go back and watch like the first season again. And even now with like stuff that I watch, I'm like, man, the earlier stuff was so much better. Like I acknowledge that it's good, but at the same time, I'm like, I'd rather just. I wonder why. Maybe because it's like, I think you described it perfectly as like lightning in a bottle. Like it's like a perfect storm of like world building and character building and story,
it's just
like that. And then as like the universe of whatever show starts to expand, it starts to get like convoluted to me. And I think I just wish for simpler times.
Yeah, because you're not learning as much.
Right.
Because like first season, you're experiencing everything for the first time, and then the second season, they're building off of new things, but you already know about that, and they're adding fewer things because you don't want to get bloated. And that's how you make a good show.
Yeah.
But that just happens sometimes. But yeah, that's just how they go. Our show for next week is Loki. We were just talking about some MCU stuff, and I actually think this is really important to talk about now, on the cusp of the release of Spider-Man next month. So I'm actually glad we're gonna talk about this. It'll get into, as Alec was talking about, the one of the next sagas of the MCU. So yeah, that's what we'll talk about next week. Loki.
Nice. Well, Ben,
Sir.
time to break out the music, Ben. So what's going on?
Well, we're going to be doing what we always do. We're going to be discussing the albums that we traded and then trading some more albums.
The
Music
best.
is very cyclical on this show. There's not much in the way of music news, so this is what we do now. I love it. I love talking about music with you guys. So we're going to go over what was traded last week and what we thought of it. Jared gave us Optimist by Phineas. And Alec, I want you to talk about this first because I have some thoughts.
I loved this album. I like Phineas. I think I personally think Phineas is better than Billy.
Ooh.
Don't care. I don't like Billy. I never really have liked Billy. I think Phineas is objectively better than Billy. But
Billy's Paul right now, and she's very hurt by that.
that's fine. I think Phineas is the better musical artist of the siblings. And I also feel like listening to this album, each song kind of had its own feel, and I kind of liked it. It was all really nice. I really liked the I can't think of the songs right now. I like the one song about I think it was called In the 90s. That was a good song. I am currently in the process of pulling up the album so I can see them all again. Happy Now. That was probably my favorite song on the album. I just feel like that song kind of it hit a little different. It was a different take on everything, and I don't know, it felt that one really stuck out to me, especially.
Yeah.
But Ben, I'll let you take your feelings on it because I know you like Billy better.
I like Billy much better, and I think this album solidified that. Phineas suffers from what I'll call not sibling syndrome, but I'm gonna call it like solo artist syndrome, where someone is known for something else and then they try to make their own music and it's just not as good as what their like main project is. Phineas is known as Billy's writer and producer, which is something that he's very good at. And while I've liked some of his previous stuff, I more felt that like I liked what he was trying to do, or I liked his ideas more than the actual music. And this album, I think, is the perfect example of that. I think he is talented. I think he has a good voice, but this music is like really hard to listen to for me. He's got really good ideas. His lyrics are always really descriptive, and you can like really get a picture of what he's talking about or like what's going on in his brain. But the instrumentation is weird. The production, I think, like he uses his own music as a space to like try stuff that he wouldn't normally try in like Billy's songs. This very much feels like a self project where he's just using it to see like what would be good to use in Billy's music, like what sounds, what instruments, what mix. I really hate the 90s. I think that might be one of my least favorite songs in recent memory. It's a novelty song, obviously, and that it really just like made me like irrationally angry. But like at the same time, like it's not bad. Like I'm just speaking so negatively about this, but like it's not a bad album. It's just like not really my cup of tea. A lot of it seems like unfinished. Like he didn't really know like how to end songs, so he just kind of like decided to finish them.
Fade it out and call it a day.
I thought Only a Lifetime was actually good. That's one of like the longer songs. But I think the structure was very good. That's another thing that really bothered me was the song structure. It's ironic that he's a songwriter, but his structure is strange and the songs don't really flow well. Yeah, I mean it's okay. I don't think I would ever like keep this in rotation. I appreciate what Phineas does and like his creative process and his intelligence, but I think that he's just like an okay solo artist. And that's really all that this was to me. Jared, what are you gonna do? Are you going to defend this, or what are your thoughts on?
I actually agree with you more than Alec. I hadn't listened to this when I assigned it. I should stop saying assigned. I don't like how that sounds.
Yeah, Professor Emil up there.
I don't know, traded, I guess. But yeah, he felt a lot. How do I put this? He didn't really have anything to say, and he was acting like he did. And it just felt very not tone deaf.
So condescending.
Yeah, a little condescending. The song, Ben, you said the 90s made you irrationally angry. I felt that way with The Kids Are All Dying.
Yeah.
That just felt like something that did not need to be harped on by a how old is he, like 27, by a 27-year-old white man. It just felt weird to me. He's talking about, I don't know, like kids in like public school or whatever. I don't even know. Like they're struggling, which they are, something of that nature. But it sounded pretty, that part of that sounded tone deaf coming from the brother of Billie Eilish. Like he doesn't know. Like he hears about it, and he's not like an activist or anything. He's just singing about it. So it just felt a little off to me. None of the songs particularly stood out to me as great. It's been like a week since I've touched this. I can't really think of any off the top of my head that really stuck in my head or that I wanted to listen to again. But again, just like Ben said, I'm talking very negatively about it. I haven't really said one good thing, but it's not a bad album per se. It's just, it was completely, it just left no impression on me once I was done. It was in one ear, out the other. Yeah, again, not bad. I would even say I enjoyed when I was listening to it, but I'm not sure if it's really anything great or special or something that needs revisiting.
Yeah, I actually might revisit this album and listen to it again because I'm trying to think, because going back to the 90s, that song was, I think, very nostalgic with a lot of the things that he said. So I'm gonna listen. I want to listen. I actually think I'm gonna listen to it again and see if there's any possible reason that I kind of had a better connection or liked this song better than both of you. I'm not much older. I don't, even though I have a lot of 90s nostalgia, I think it's just like hand me down from a whole bunch of people that I talked to and hung out with growing up.
Yeah.
I was born in 98, so I didn't experience a lot, but I remember a lot. And a lot of the 90s nostalgia things I still kind of cling to because I grew up with all of it, just kind of being around. So I'm not quite sure if there's a real reason as to why I actually connected with some of the things that he said a little better than both of you two did. So I might listen to it again and try to see, maybe it's just my brain trying to make a connection and figure out a pattern. But I'm kind of just intrigued. So I might give it another run through and try to see if I can think of a reason.
Yeah, no, that's something I've noticed about you actually, Alec, is you really do like nostalgia and things of that nature. And I think Ben and I are similar in that we kind of not hate it, but are easily irritated by it if it's not done in like a specific way.
And I also think it's different because, like, even though I'm not that much older than you, like I would say like 96 to 2000, things changed incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Like people born in 96 aren't much older than people born in 2000, but they have two vastly different like lives pretty much, and
Yeah.
culture and understanding of how things are. It's what is that, 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
That's
5 years. Yeah.
that's almost no time now that you think about it. And those two people that are so similar in age have two completely different viewpoints on everything,
Yeah.
which is kind of why I'm trying to that's kind of why I'm trying to like think about it. I don't know. It may just be me trying to put pieces together that don't really fit, but
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that too. And Ben, by the way, did I incorrectly speak for you with what I just said about nostalgia, or was I on the?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. I think a lot too is like who we're raised by. There are parents that raise their kids, and this wouldn't necessarily apply since you were just talking about your experiences with the 90s, Alec, but I think there are parents that like to show kids what they like about nostalgia. Like, well, this is what I watched as a kid, and this is why I still like it today, and this is how it makes me feel. So then you see that and you want to seek that out too. And like, I don't want to say that you're taught to seek out nostalgia, but like, I don't know, maybe you are. Maybe it's just something about how people's interests are formed that nostalgia is a way to like get, it's like an easy way to the heart a lot of times. And not that my parents didn't do that, but I do know, at least for me growing up, that I was introduced to a lot of stuff constantly coming out, like a lot of new things. So I'm more always looking towards the future.
I
Not that that's
also
any
I
better or
also
worse.
think a lot of the nostalgia connected with you, Jared, is more like through superheroes and Star Wars and comics, you said your dad loves that stuff too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he's probably like, all right, Jared, we're gonna sit down and watch the first Star Wars that was released when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Obviously, you weren't alive for that. So
Yeah.
I would view that as kind of like the same type of deal and kind of a nostalgic connection that you just kind of described. And
Yeah,
then
it's like inherited
yeah,
nostalgia.
and for Ben, it would kind of be like his dad showing him Tom Petty and all these other and Rush and all these other artists that were big when his dad was in high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hmm.
Alec, you're completely right. My dad was and very much still is nostalgic for the 80s. And growing up and having him like show me that stuff, I am just a natural like contrarian. So I just didn't like it. That's not true, but I similar to Jared, I'm always looking for like what's coming next. And if I do feel nostalgia, it's for things, not for like time periods. Like I'll like play like Fallout New Vegas was like the first like story game that I like sunk a lot of time into. And sometimes I'd be like, man, I wish I could like go back and play that again. Like I love that like feeling.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, oh man, I wish I could like go back to like the early 2010s. Um, and I think it's just because I'm just a hater. I'm just a boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, nostalgia affects people differently. But I think so we don't get too far off track.
Yeah.
For the 90s specifically, it's just that same thing to me that people have been doing for years, where it's like, oh man, I wish we could go back to better times, just born the wrong generation. Like what's happened to the world, which is so like condescending and so like wishful. I'm not saying that Alec, like your nostalgia gives off that kind of feeling, but like this song does. This song is very much just like what happened, like where did like I wish we could just go back, grow up. Also sounds like an AKR song, which is just something that I hate. So
Yeah, but kind of to put the train back on the tracks here, I handed both of you All We Know of Heaven, All We Need of Hell by Paris, which is their middle album. So I kind of wanted to hear what you guys thought about this album.
Yeah, I'll go first. I like the sound of them. Now, this is just one album, and you kind of said they have other albums that sound differently. They go different directions towards different genres. I like the sound of this. The first couple songs, I was very excited because I'm like, wow, I'm really liking this. I was like buckled in for the entire album, but they never deviated much from that sound. It all by the end of the album, I felt like I listened to the same 3 or 4 songs overall because there wasn't a lot of deviation. So I think individually, the songs in general were good. Let me pull up some good ones, but for the most part, if I put this on shuffle, I don't think I would have noticed if I put it on shuffle a different way and listened to it again, if that makes sense. A lot of them just ended up sounding very similar to me. But yeah, like I said, the opening was really great. The first song that I can't remember the name of, I'm gonna pull it up now. Heaven, yeah, that was really good. Let's see. Walk Alone, I liked. There's one at the end that sounded really different from the rest, actually. I think it was No Mercy, or it might have been Winter.
Yeah, no Mercy is one of the like popular songs among their fan base. But yeah, this is like Paris. They've already like come out to all their fan base and said, we're literally here just making music. If we think we made something that sounds good, you guys are gonna hear it.
Gotcha.
They really like didn't say, oh, we're an alt band, we're a punk band. They kind of just like, yep, we're here to make music that we think sounds cool, and if we think it sounds cool, we'll show it to you guys. But that's kind of like their whole mentality towards music, and they're like, well, this is kind of cool. A label picked this up. Oh, this is cool. We're going on a tour now. Like they're just kind of making music to make music, and that's just it. Like, and that's kind of why I think it's cool to see their first album all the way up to their latest release and how vastly different it is. But again, I also didn't want to give you guys Paris for 4 straight weeks. So
yeah,
that's why I kind of just sat in the middle and told you guys to keep in mind that they go in opposite directions, either before or after.
Yeah. And again, this is actually going back to the conversation we just had about Optimist. It felt like the old early 2000s like punk rock type stuff, like especially Evanescence.
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job, but I don't think they did anything new. You know what I mean? Like it immediately reminded me of that era, but it didn't do anything to separate it from that era. And I think that, 20 years later, I think that's something you need to do. Yeah. Ben?
Yeah, I think similar sentiments to Jared. I think musically, this is not really like my sound. But I think it was interesting. How many people are in this band, Alec? It's not too many. There's only 3.
There's only 2 currently.
Oh, yeah, because you said the one guy got kicked out.
Yeah.
I think that it sounded like they were doing a lot with only 3 people. They were able to fill up like the space pretty well instrumentally. Lyrically, I think what Phineas tried to do didn't come off, but I think that these guys tried to do a lot of the same themes, and I think it worked better than what Phineas tried to do.
Yeah, because this album was released in 2017.
Yeah, very, very introspective lyrics. What was the line from that one song?
That narrows it down.
Oh yeah, that one.
something about being miserable and like a metaphor. I just butchered that so bad, but yeah, you guys heard the album. You get the point.
That's just how they sing it. Something about being
it was more raw the way the lyrics were presented. But yeah, I think similar to Jared, they didn't really do anything spectacular or out of the ordinary. I think I'm just biased because I think like the not pop punk, but more like grunge, like dirtier punk is just like not really like my sound. I did really like Heaven, but I don't think it ever like got back to that level after that. It kind of like, for me, it kind of faded after What's Wrong. It kind of just became like a blur, and then now it wasn't very long, which I think was positive. It never like bored me. I just don't think that the songs like connected with me as much as I thought they were going to. But yeah, certainly not bad. I gotta stop like just being overly negative at the start, because then I have to walk it back and be like, but I actually did kind of like it a little bit. But But yeah, I did like this a little bit. Similar to the last one, I don't know if it's gonna stay in my rotation. I think part of that is me just like being burnt out on like this style of like introspective, darker music.
Yeah.
Also just I just wasn't really a huge fan of the sound, but it was definitely different than stuff that has been suggested here in the past. So
I think
yeah,
I think the line you were thinking of is don't need a metaphor for you to know I'm miserable from what's wrong.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
I'm actually shocked that you found that.
I
How
have
did you
I have
find that
I have
segue?
I have a Paris expert listening in.
How?
Um yeah, my fiance Emma has been following this band since before their first album, actually. And I have been, and she's been, like I said, she's been listening to this album since before this first album in 2014, when all they did was like punk rock covers of a bunch of songs. Um, and she's only in the other room, so she can hear us talking. But yeah, she's a diehard fan. We saw Paris in concert. We met them. We met Lynn and Brian, who are the two members of the band currently. But yeah, she's got me kind of sucked into their band. And I like all their music, pretty good. But you guys know my music taste. I'll pull like 3-4 songs off every album I listen to, and those are the ones I stick with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you guys kind of like this album. But on your own time, if you ever get curious, listen to the 2 other albums they have, which are called Use Me and White Noise. I don't personally see a lot of variation in the deluxe versions. So if you don't really need to listen to those if you don't want to. Like Use Me Deluxe
Gotcha.
has a few like EDM remixes of songs. But if you want to go and see kind of like one direction versus the other from this album, go for it. But I'm not gonna assign it to you guys.
What I really like about this,
What I assign later. What were you saying, Ben?
what I really like about this segment is how Alec like balances us. Garrett and I are super. I would say that we're like more picky and like we're like more analytical, but Alec just likes music.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
Alec
a
doesn't get
vibe.
super in depth into like the songwriting stuff like that. He just turns it on. He's like, I love this song.
Yep.
He talks about it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I gave the guys the
Very deep.
Lockdown Sessions by Elton John, which I described a mess of an album. I really want to hear their thoughts on it. I intended to give them a different album, but I remembered that this was sitting in my library and I saw it and I was like, I have to give them this. So yeah, take it away, guys. What did you think?
Go ahead,
Alec,
Jared.
you can go first. Oh,
I beat you to it, so you're going first.
all right, fair enough. Well,
that way it can go bad, good, bad.
oh God, how do I begin? Well, let me start by saying I put this off for so long simply because of the album art sitting in my I told the guys sitting in my Apple Music. Every time I pulled it up and looked in my library, I just saw Elton John staring at me from behind Gucci shades, and it intimidated me because of how Ben talked about it before he assigned it to us. So I was like, ah, shit. I just kept putting it off. So I listened to it. It's got so many features, or I guess they're not even features because it's credited as Elton and whoever. So he's got like Dua Lipa, Young Thug, Surfaces, Charlie Puth, Gorillaz, Miley Cyrus, Brandon Carlisle, sorry. Oh, and we that Lil Nas X song that is on his album.
Yeah.
And then there's Eddie Vedder, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Nicks. Yeah, I like Elton John, but I don't know what it is about these types of albums, but I hate them. When the artist gets together and I don't know what is that called? Like a compilation album or like a playlist, maybe?
That's what I would say.
Compilation album. Oops, almost just hit play. it's very unfocused to me, and I guess that's okay. Like you don't always have to have like a focus, but even the fact that this is called the lockdown sessions, it just felt like he was bored and wanted to throw something together with his friends, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it just feels uninspired, I guess. And I don't think I'm going to be controversial in saying he's far past his prime at this point. So just nothing really stood out to me. No song was particularly great. It ranged from mediocre to outright terrible for me. To this day, I don't know how Young Thug has now worked with Elton John twice, but that's happened, so that's strange. Ben, and maybe I'm biased because of how you scared me into this.
Yeah, I said
Before
after
we-
introduced it that I should not have said that before.
yeah, but didn't really enjoy myself.
For me,
Alec?
if he would have held on to all of these songs and just like released one and released all of them as like singles over 2 years, I don't think anyone would have cared. And all of them probably would have been perceived a lot better. But I think it's the fact that he released all of it in a big album.
Mhm.
And kind of, I mean, he may have curated all of these people to come together and make this, but I don't know. And he did a lot of like the instrumentation and singing, but I don't know. I kind of get like a mild DJ Khaled vibe from this album. I don't know why, but like that's kind of the feeling I get. Or kind of like, I guess it's more like the Ed Sheeran number 6 collaborations album.
Mhm.
I guess that is what it probably more correlates to, if you guys listen to that album at all.
Yeah, and actually, I like that.
Yeah, I liked
I
that
like
one too. But like I like certain songs off of this one. I really didn't like the Nothing Else Matters cover. I didn't think that sounded good at all. But there's some things that I think sound good, but I think as an album collectively, this isn't very good. Like I said, I think if you would have released these like one at a time as singles, and then literally said, hey, I'm going to make a playlist of all these singles that I made, so that way you don't have to go find them yourself, then it would have been different. But I don't know. It didn't feel like an album. It felt like I literally made a playlist of a bunch of Elton John stuff.
Yeah, like unfocused. That was that's how I felt too.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I have. I mean, there were some okay songs and some good songs and some bad songs, but I don't know. It just didn't feel like an album, and it didn't feel like an Elton John album. It felt more like he was featuring on a bunch of songs, but they're not all. I feel like some of them are features, like the what's it called? Which one is it? I feel like Chosen Family, he's a feature. Learn to Fly, I feel like he's the feature, even though he may not be. One of Me feels like he's the feature, and I think he actually is on that one. That's the one with Lil Nas, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Ben,
that's kind of another thing that throws me off with it. Go ahead, Ben.
what?
That some of these songs he seems like the feature, but it's
right.
But go ahead, Ben.
I will say, I kind of, you guys know my thoughts on this already. I was really excited to listen to the Gorillaz song with him on it, because I love Gorillaz obviously, but I did not like that song either. Which is a shame because I love Gorillaz and their new stuff has been pretty good, but that was like a huge step back. And Alec, probably the reason why you feel like he's a feature on some of these songs is because he is. Some of these songs are not like his songs. There's a Gorillaz song. There's a Rina Sawayama song. He's on a Surfaces song, and obviously like the other ones are like Glenn Campbell, Miley Cyrus. I think we mentioned. Somehow these are attributed to other artists, but they're on this album, and he's. which is interesting. But yeah, getting into what we're gonna trade. Some really interesting albums here. I'm ready to hear you guys talk about. So yeah, let's get into it. What do you guys have for us, Jared? You go first.
Yeah, so I have Weight of the World by Maxo Cream. Alec keeps trying to change it to Mayo Cream on the outline. This was well, I want to be impartial in how I say it, but I really didn't think I'd like this album at all or this guy. But I did. He dropped a single with Tyler the Creator a little bit before this dropped, and I heard it. Wasn't really a fan of him, but I like Tyler's verse, but I still decided to give it a chance. And now I'm going to make you guys listen to it. What do you guys think about the album art?
Oh, I need to pull that up.
Mm, I think this is gonna. I kind of feel like he's gonna bring up like. I'm assuming he's from Philadelphia. That's my guess.
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
wrong in saying that?
I don't know, but I would also assume so. I thought you were just.
I would assume he's from Philly
Yeah.
because of the tattoo on his back. So I have a feeling it's gonna kind of be like a lot of like, here's where I'm from, here's my hood,
Yeah.
type of deal stuff.
For some reason, I thought you just somehow surmised that by his name. I was like, what about Maxo Cream makes you think it's Philadelphia? And then I look at the album art, I'm like, oh, some guy with a Philly.
Yeah, with
jersey.
the bat with the Sixers jersey. So I
Sixers
I feel like
jersey,
he's definitely gonna end up bringing up like where I'm from type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the vibe I get from that. And I mean, obviously, I would assume it's rap based off of tattoo, the massive chains, and his name and some of the features. But
it's actually a hyper pop.
Hyper pop.
No, I'm just
that
kidding.
Sounds great. It's a R&B, smooth jazz.
Yeah.
It's butt rock. Creed and stuff like that.
Butt rock, yeah.
Who did you say that was? That I asked what genre someone was, and you said butt pop. I forget who I was asking.
Butt rock is like, it's like Counting Crows.
No, butt pop.
Butt pop? Oh, who was
I asked you like what genre so and so is, and you guys, and the first thing Ben said was butt pop. I was like, okay. I can't remember.
I don't remember that.
Really funny. I do remember that being hilarious. My own joke was really funny. Surprise.
Ben goes, oh yeah, you're right. I was hilarious. I don't remember.
Delve back in our outlines, Alec, and maybe it'll be there.
Maybe. I don't know. But what do you think of this album cover, Ben?
Yeah, same as you. It's obviously going to be about like where he's from, probably. That's what like a lot of rap albums are about. They're about heritage and family and stuff like that. The first song on the album is called Christian, which is a play on the word Christian. So I already like this.
I'll tell you, my favorite title on that album is where is it? Don't Play with Shawty Ass.
Man.
But yeah, looking forward to it. Jared, you discussed that feature he had on, was it a Tyler song or a Tyler feature on
it was Tyler had a feature on his song.
Yeah, I did really like that. So
yeah,
I'm very excited. Alec, what do you have for us?
I'm going to give you guys Follow the Leader by Korn. It's quite the opposite of Jared's album.
Ben, can you do that impression again that you did before we started?
Korn to me and my friends is a huge like joke. No offense, Alec. But what's the thing on Freak on a Leash? What does he do? It's that.
It's great.
That was awesome. But I don't know. Freak on a Leash is on this album, so you'll be able to listen to it, process it, and then try again next show.
Yeah, I'll refine it for you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah,
kind of hear your thoughts.
I like this.
Me?
I can't see you.
I know
you can't get you.
I can't
get a camera to work, so I don't know if you're gonna start talking or not.
I should just pull up like a Zoom on my phone instead of just using this computer.
Yeah, but Follow the Leader, 1998 album. What do you guys think, Ben?
I've actually heard most of the songs on here before. I listened to Korn a little bit ago as a joke. And so I'll give my full opinion next week. But album art, it's a girl playing hopscotch, and she's about to jump off the edge into an abyss. So, I sympathize. Sometimes I feel that way. So, liking the album art.
All right.
Yeah, I like it too. I like the well, it's like I love the juxtaposition of like innocent children just playing a game, but it's like very dire and serious situation going on.
I
Pretty
feel
cool.
like
I don't see any corn though.
no, I don't either. I feel like different genres have different style albums, and I like rock
Oh
albums.
yeah.
I think they're all the rock albums are very like intricate and in depth. Some and a lot of like hip hop and rap albums that I've seen are either just the artists or they're like really trippy art. Which I also think is really cool. But
Like Young
Ben,
Thugs.
yeah, exactly.
Young Thugs is actually both. It's
Yeah,
like 4 versions of him.
yeah, I think that's cool. But Ben, what are you giving us?
Yeah, I'm giving you guys one of my favorite albums of the last few years. It's City Pop by Benny Sings. I'm not gonna tell you my thoughts too in depth on it, even though I just kind of did. This is a pop album from the Dutch singer-songwriter. It's not me, by the way. I'm not Benny Sings. From a Dutch
Looks like you.
kind of. No, not at all. This guy does not look like me. I love.
Yeah, not as good looking.
Oh, thank you so much. Bit of a shorter album. What I really like about this is how Benny kind of did everything himself. I think that he played all the instruments, did all the mixing. It's really good, and even though it is a pop album, it is more intelligent than pop music tends to be. Yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. It's my favorite.
Ooh.
How about the album art? What do you guys
Yeah, I love these. I love like the simple album arts, and this is definitely that. I don't say this as an insult, but it looks like he drew it himself
Yeah, I think he did.
in like 10 seconds. Not 10 seconds, but yeah, it looks cool. I like it. Also, Apple Music says it's alternative,
It's not. It is very much a pop album.
but
We'll call it butt
very
pop.
Yeah, I'm excited. Butt
Awesome.
pop. There you go.
But yeah, Alec, what do you think?
I'm thinking that this album it's gonna be kind of slow. I don't foresee a lot of fast, high-paced songs on here.
You would be right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's gonna be a lot of like chill, relaxing, driving down the road, windows down kind of songs.
Yeah. See if
I
you're
love those.
Yeah, me too. They're fun.
I love driving down the road.
so just walk down just anywhere.
There's a road, man. I want to drive down it.
Jared, where are you going now? Just going down
Just driving down the road.
As you should.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up our content discussions for today.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about Alec's random thoughts today.
Can I just say, for the people who are listening to this, our outline is it's not that it doesn't get very in depth, but like you see the bullet points, you know what we're going to talk about. But then at the very end, it just says random thoughts. And then under it, right now, it says chips.
Yeah. Yeah. I always try to put just like one word so that way both of you guys get an idea in your head, and it's this way, but I'm going like just straight up to my idea, and you guys are way over here.
It's the same as the Bible discussion. Like we don't know where you're going to take it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just kind of wherever. But yeah, so chips. A Harvard study found that more than 120,000 people found that potato chips are to blame for the gain of an average of 1.69 pounds per person over 4 years.
Okay.
Potato chips are to blame for most weight gain.
What?
Throughout people. Yeah. Potato chips. Sugary sweet beverages such as soda averages to about 1 pound every 4 years of weight. And unprocessed red meat is less than a pound per person of gained weight. Potato chips are the highest amount of weight gain over 4 years.
Interesting.
Okay, I have a theory as to why.
I do too. So I want to hear yours, and I'm guarantee it's going to be the exact same.
I think chips like go hand in hand with a sedentary lifestyle, and you can just sit there and just keep eating and eating and eating. You know, you watch a season of TV, you can eat a whole bag of chips.
Yep.
But for like soda, most of the time, like soda is obviously bad for you too. But I think what happens there is people are just drinking them with meals. So you have 3 sodas a day, you know, whatever. But like if you're watching TV, who knows how many chips you're going to eat, how many bags of chips.
Yeah.
And then would you say candy or was it processed meats?
Unprocessed red meat.
What is that?
Like, I'm assuming it's like burgers.
Like burger. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and that's
basically just red meat.
It's also surprising because fattening things aren't really what makes you fat. It's actually sugar.
Yeah.
So you'd think the soda would do it more. But again, I think that goes hand in hand with the sedentary lifestyle. And I think that's why unprocessed red meat ends up in third versus chips and soda.
Yeah, because processed meat tends to have less fat in it.
Right. Okay.
What is a chip? Is it like I guess you said potato chips, so that just nullified my point.
Yeah, it did.
When you say chips, obviously like your brain goes right to potato chips, but what about like Cheetos, or do you consider those chips?
Dude, I've heard people say Cheetos or chips.
I feel like if you incorporate those into the chips category, I feel like the pounds per person over 4 years will go up.
So how about like a puff, like a cheese curl?
I don't think so either.
Oh, I don't Cheetos and cheese curls or cheese puffs are not chips. I think they are their own thing.
I think chips is a large category, and I think that puffs fall under chips. Puff is just a category of a chip.
I think it's a snack food.
Well, a chip is also
that's even broader.
larger.
We're just getting more broader and broader and broader.
Yeah, but didn't the study say potato chips?
Yeah, this study says potato chips.
But however, that also,
if we're including chips, then I think we're gonna end up including like tortilla chips.
yeah. So
like
Doritos would be in that.
Doritos, all of them.
Chips.
If
Yeah.
we include all of it,
Jeez,
man.
There's got to be another word for that, because you can't say they're chips like Cheetos and stuff. But I get what Ben is saying, that they're like in the same category as Lay's and Pringles, all that crap.
So I have a couple points, or a couple things to say. I don't, and I don't personally know anyone that just like eats potato chips. Like none of my friends or I will like have like lunch or whatever and just eat like chips. So who are they studying? First of all, Harvard needs to
120,000 people.
Need to cast their net. But also like, what was I gonna say? What did Jared say right before I started talking?
About how like Cheetos and stuff are on chips.
I had a really good point and now I cannot remember it. Whatever. But yeah, I don't eat like chips. Like I don't. So that doesn't include me. This weight gain is not. I'm not dragging. I'm not bringing the average up. What about like a Dorito?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, because that's not a potato chip, but it is a chip.
And that's why I think if we just include all chips, that number is going to go up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
going to go up. I think it'll end up being closer to like 2 pounds per person over 4 years, as opposed to 1.6.
Or like a pretzel. Like, what do you?
Yeah. What is a Cheeto if not a chip?
Oh, Pringles. Yeah, Jared mentioned Pringles.
Yeah.
I have never once eaten or seen anyone eat Pringles with a meal.
Really? They just eat them by themselves?
Pringles to me have always been like their own. Like you eat Pringles like independently.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had Pringles with like in my lunchbox going to elementary school and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We just do it different down here in Slanko, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm a big Pringles guy.
Pringles and snack packs, man. If you showed up with Pringles or a snack pack, everyone wanted to trade with you. You had your pick of trade in the lunchroom.
What about chips on a sandwich? Because I think that is a crime punishable by death.
Oh no,
I
hard
used to do it all the
disagree. I
time.
love that.
I used to do that all the time.
I love that.
Really? That is
Yeah, put some nice crunch on it. Okay, but I only do potato chips. I've seen my dad do Doritos.
I've seen
It
people
also,
do.
it also depends on the sandwich.
Yeah, I just do like a turkey and cheese.
I guess I'm just
Yeah.
more
And
sophisticated.
then
You put chips on like a turkey and cheese.
did you just hear what Ben said?
No, I didn't.
You said, I guess I'm just more sophisticated.
I have
Oh
elevated.
my god. Yeah. Ben, you're about to get kicked off the show. It's gonna become the Jackass now.
You ever
Yeah.
my issue sometimes, and now I'm a very like sensory person. I tend to be a picky eater a lot of times because of like textures and things. And a lot of times I don't I have you ever seen people like take a slice of lunch meat out and just like eat it in one bite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I could almost puke just watching someone do that. That is so gross to me, just because it's like slimy. So like I need bread, but then the bread and that together in your mouth is too mushy. So then I need cheese, but then the cheese does like its own thing. So then I need a crunch, and the chips like make it a perfect balance.
I find that the perfect sandwich is like a turkey sandwich on a roll, because a roll has like a little more crunch to it. And then if you're looking for more crunch, you just add a little bit of lettuce.
What kind of roll has a crunch?
A Kaiser roll, like a little tougher.
So just,
Okay, it's not like a crunch, like a bite,
no.
like a like a
Well,
heartier
like,
bite.
like, do you ever make your like turkey and cheese or ham and cheese with toast instead?
I have in the
I
past.
do that all the time. I'll make my
I-
sandwich with toast instead of just regular bread.
I won't do toast because I don't like having the lunch meat cold and the
Bread hot.
bread hot. Yeah, so I'll make a melt. I'll just do like a grilled, like I'm making a grilled
Yeah,
cheese,
grilled
but I'll
cheese.
throw like turkey on it and fixings and everything. Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah,
Mhm.
chips are the reason that people gain the most weight over a 4-year span.
Man, I'm really hungry now.
Yeah, me too. So I'm thinking that is all the time we have
I
today.
think Ben had one more thing he was gonna say.
Did he?
I just want to say, I think that we should each make a chip tier list and post it to Twitter and see which ones the people agree with.
Oh,
Everyone wants to
like
do
who,
that.
like who thinks that what chip is the best?
Yeah, I'll find a link to like a tier list website, and I'll send you guys a link, and we can each just drag and drop and post.
oh, like like the ones that go like
Yeah, yeah.
horizontal like this. Yeah, okay, yeah, I got you.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah, I'd be down.
So be on the lookout for that on our Twitter, which is at @jab_cast. It'll be like down there or over there somewhere on if you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, Jared, you're normally in like the top screen next to me and Ben's on the bottom. So it's probably like right about there. But yeah, listen to our show next week to hear us talk about Finch, Apple TV movie, and Loki, which is 6 episodes, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, it's a pretty quick season, but they're all about an hour long. And then we're also going to obviously talk about our albums next week and hear my random thought. Also, you'll hear Ben refine his corn noises. So thank you all very much for listening. Tune in next week to hear us talk about everything that I just listed. See you later, everybody.